Steadily it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, back with another video, and I want to do a video to highlight this 62 Lincoln Continental Convertible that was a no sale. This car did not meet the reserve based upon what I saw that day. You can see right here, actually, reserve not met. I did jump into this one shortly after it ended to take a look at where the final number was. And as I stated, I did a very in-depth review, and I kind of tested the waters a little bit because that review also ended up as a new episode of Lincoln Addict Podcast, just so that more people can listen, those that listen through the podcast apps and things like that. But it was a very in-depth look at this particular car. Now, the ironic thing is, it didn't dawn on me that day that there was actually a reserve. And that's fine. A lot of people don't realize that you can set a reserve with Bring a Trailer, and that's fantastic, right? So nobody wants to risk selling something and losing out based upon what they have into a particular car. I certainly think that's important to have a reserve if that's, best for the owner. The key thing that I want to mention here is in the comments, there were there were different things, different comments kind of back and forth, and I want to take a look at them. Now, this person says the undercarriage was undeniably rusty. Unibody cars do not bode well with rust. Like I said, and I was hopeful that the owner, I think he had chimed in and said, hey, I'm a new subscriber to your channel. Like, again, I never want to, be disrespectful to these folks that own the cars and things like that. To me, underneath the car did look pretty good. It's definitely compared to other cars I've seen. And again, I just thought, like, with this car being as nice as it really appears, that, someone could take some little extra time and even make the undercarriage, just as nice if people don't want to do that. The key thing here is a couple of folks kind of felt like that Bring a Trailer doesn't bring, no pun intended, maybe a certain clientele. And I don't necessarily agree with that because, we've seen some big sales on Bring a Trailer. This person said numbers don't lie. Trading hands privately, my finished Lincoln convertibles exceeded the numbers here on Bring a Trailer. This person claims, again, 3 billionaires have acquired my Lincolns. Who knows? 63 convertible I finished is currently sitting in a museum in LA, not bragging, blah, 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 right? Someone said here, which was, I think, the same guy, it says, bottom line, Continentals do not do well on BIT, which I don't agree with. We've seen some very strong numbers, and you got to remember, some of these cars I've seen, I think they've sold for more than they're even worth on Bring a Trailer. So, especially even at auctions. And I went to a Mecum auction, believe it or not, last weekend, which was the first one I think I've been to in person. So it was kind of a cool experience. I'll talk about that probably on the next podcast. This one he goes on to say RM and bottoms are those that, he would maybe recommend. So here's what I wanted to look at. Again, this car, arguably, there is some information here, and, someone that's probably going to spend the money on it, potentially is either going to say this is enough for them to go, wow, yeah, JFK did ride in it. I did also, of course, go down a little bit of that bunny trail via the last video I did, which again also became an episode of Lincoln Addict Podcast, so you can listen audibly. But the key thing is, like, for instance, if we look at bottoms, and I've mentioned this car in the past, this was an ex-John F. Kennedy limousine, as they call it, Lincoln Continental in our minds. This one sold for $375,000. But this car wasn't just a car that the president rode in, right? The ex-president, JFK. This car basically was kind of, considered, they refer to it as Limo 1, right? So, I think bottoms, I don't know a lot about them. I know they've been around a long time, and you're going to see a lot of high-end stuff there. It may be advantageous for this person to go that route, absolutely, especially if that reserve was 150 or 200,000. I'm not certain that he would maybe get that here. But certainly that's not to say that people that have money are constantly on this website. Believe me, I know. So I think, more than likely where it topped out at 110 was that, someone looked at it and said, okay, well, I'm taking a little bit of a risk. It does appear, there's a photo of him. This does appear like a pretty nice car. It's an AC Lincoln. It had, some AC upgrades. It may not be perfect. And I always say these cars, like my friend Teresa Connor, aka TC, always says, these cars, most of them need something, right? And, to me, you look at this car and you go, man, this is a pretty nice car. Now, the caveat that I always say is, we're not looking at this in person, right? So I've had situations where, people will chime in on an auction car and they go, man, I've seen it in person and blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. I mean, we can only do so much looking at the photos, but I will say I have seen cars sell for more than this that were not as nice as this. Okay. So if that's any indication, certainly I think overall, it's a pretty nice car. But I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think if you had the money and you were in the market and you were looking to buy a mid-60s Lincoln, is there enough here for you to go, wow, JFK rode in this car, with it being restored, does that impact your decision? We can see, and I think I had called out that I thought there could be some receipts added, but it looks like there was there were some receipts here. I forget if I had mentioned those, or maybe they added those at the end, which if they did, fantastic. But you can see their upholstery shop. I mean, over $6,000 for upholstery. And then here was another $5,300, I guess, for the top, installed convertible top, $3,500. I mean, this stuff is not cheap. So what do you guys think? Let me know. I appreciate the support. And stay on the rise. If you want to hear more Lincoln stuff, you can find tons of videos on my channel here on YouTube or via Lincoln Addict Podcast. You can Google Lincoln Addict and land on my website, which is lincolnaddict.com. Or if you're on Spotify, Pandora, pretty much most podcast platforms. And for those that don't know what a podcast is, it's basically like a pre-recorded audio show. You can go out there and listen audibly to those. I've had John Cashman on. I've had a lot of great people on. We've done a lot of tech kind of in the early episodes. There's a lot of good information. If you're in the market for one of these cars, certainly check out those videos on the channel here or the audio shows via Lincoln Addict Podcast. Stay on the rise and let me know what you think. Should this car have went for more? Would you be in the market to potentially buy it down the road? I'd love to hear from you. Take care, everyone. We're out of here.